Who are you when separated from all that is familiar to you? Do you go with the flow, or do you respectfully retain your identity? Let's examine briefly the story that begins the book of Daniel. About 600 years before Christ, King Nebuchadnezzar, leader of Babylon, the superpower at that time, besieged and then captured Jerusalem. Daniel, maybe about 18 years of age, lost everything that day, and the unspeakable horrors etched onto his memory would have haunted him for a lifetime. Daniel and his friends were separated from all that was familiar to them, and they were forced to march for weeks, possibly naked and chained to other prisoners, to a land where many other changes were waiting for him. On their arrival at Babylon, they were tested in every way, then selected to join an elite group given the privilege of a university education at arguably the best university of the time. The price for that education was very costly for Daniel and his companions. Many years before, the prophet Isaiah warned the Judean king Hezekiah that some of his descendants would end up in the court of Babylon as eunuchs. So Daniel was being completely reprogrammed. He lost not only his past, that is his home, his neighborhood, his culture, his religion, he also lost his present. He was given a new name, a new identity, a new diet, but he also lost his future. He would never be able to have a wife and family. And beyond that, with Jerusalem captured and the king of Israel in prison, the promise of a Messiah now was just impossible. His world had essentially come to an end. You know, the people of Jerusalem had been smug for years that their city was indestructible, and that raises a number of issues. For example, how permanent, really, are things that keep you and I smug? When we lose everything, does our crisis of faith cause us to move away from God and protest against Him? Although offered food from the king's table, Daniel and 3 of his friends refused to be totally absorbed and assimilated into something totally anti-God. You know, diet is one thing, but there's another intriguing aspect to this. The new names given to Daniel and his friends were part of a strategy to sever them from their past and to assume completely different identities. They were now no longer attached to God with their names, but to the deities of Babylon. But here we begin to see Daniel's resolve not to be assimilated. The so-called Babylonian names have all been changed by him. His own name, Daniel, means God is my judge. His new name was Belshazzar, which means Bel protect his life. Bel was a title like Lord given to Marduk, the chief god of Babylon. But Daniel twisted it to the non-Babylonian but similar sounding Belteshazzar. His friends did something similarly. Hananiah, which means God is gracious, became Shada Aku, a follower of the moon god Aku. He changed it to Shadrach, reducing the god Aku to just the letter K. Mishael means who is like God, but he became Mushallam Marduk, who was like Marduk. But the god Marduk is also reduced to a single letter, K, ending up with Meshach. And Azariah, God is my helper, became Adi Nabu, servant of Nebo, the god of wisdom. When this was changed, it ended up with Abednego. So, the focus of chapter 1 is that of identity. Who was Daniel and his 3 close friends when everything about them was changed? Who were they when separated from family and older relatives, and when faced with all the temptations of aristocratic life? Humanly speaking, there was no point in these boys keeping their old identities, but they did. And the result was their being 10 times better than their peers who caved in and followed the crowd. This clearly demonstrates to us that only by being true to God can we achieve our true identity and our true potential.